You think you know English until you move to Australia, and suddenly the words you've used your whole life, they suddenly don't sound the same anymore. And it's not just an accent thing, it's like stepping into a parallel universe where the words actually sound almost completely different. Now, I absolutely love how Australians speak, that's why I married one, but don't even bother trying to argue with them about it. They'll just grin and say something like this comment that I got on the last video I did on this topic. And honestly, they might be right. So today in this video, I'm going to go through the 8 words that are pronounced completely different to British English and completely shocked me when I first moved to Australia. Let's get into it. Hey mate, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Sam, a British actor and musician documenting my journey of rebuilding my life in Australia. Now, it's really important I say that I'm a Brit who's only been living in Australia for a year, so I might make some mistakes in this video. Also, Australia is a massive country and the pronunciation of English words will vary between different states. Anyway, the first word is foyer. Now, you can probably tell if you are American or Australian, I've said that word in quite an unusual way, and I admit that the British version of pronouncing this word, foyer, is very different from the Aussie version of pronouncing the word, which is foyer. Now, was I brought up in the UK to say foyer? Yes, I was. Do I make myself cringe every time I say it to an Aussie in Australia? Yes, I do. And that's the thing, the UK version, foyer, us Brits, we love to do the French pronunciation of lots of French words like croissant, we call it that, and then in Australia it'll be called croissant. When we say I don't know what, we actually say je ne sais quoi. No, that's not true, sorry. But Aussies go foyer. It's blunt, it's practical, you know exactly what they're saying, and they're not trying to be someone they're not. I don't come from aristocratic, upper class British society, so why am I saying foyer? I don't know. Probably because the UK has instilled this social judgment in me that if I don't pronounce words in a very particular way, everyone's going to give me the glaries. So Australians, they simplify, and I'm absolutely here for it. Thank you, Australians. So word number 2, auction. In the UK, we say auction. Australians find this quite funny. They think we're being quite, auction, very elongate it, make it, again, sound a bit more posh, a bit more French, a bit more fancy. Whereas Aussies will typically say something like auction. Now, I have to admit, I do lay it on a bit thick in these videos when I say, oh, these words shocked me and I couldn't believe it. Of course I do that. I'm an actor. I'm a bit over dramatic at times. But when I first heard my father-in-law say auction, it really took me a second to know what he was saying. It really threw me back because I just found that pronunciation so different from the word. Now, the word auction I hear a lot in Australia because if you don't already know, there's a big housing crisis and it's getting so bad in Brisbane now that a lot of houses for sale are actually going for auction. Ever since COVID, a lot of people have moved out from other cities and towns in Australia and have wanted to come to Brisbane, probably because they can see that it's the best city in Australia. Fight me on that. Don't fight me, you probably win. I'm going to go call my mother-in-law and I'm going to get the proper Aussie approval on this, but I'll send it to you. Here we go.
Auction.
Oh my gosh, you do! That's brilliant.
You would say auction.
Yeah.
It's more like OX, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like an ox. Number 3 is Nike. In the UK, as we often do in our British accent, it's a little more tighter around the jaw, more front of the teeth and the lips. But in Australia, they will say Nike. And when I first heard my wife say this, she said Nike, I said, I thought you were Australian, not American. And she said, Sam, stop, you're so funny. She didn't say that. She said, in Australia, mate, right, listen here, you. No, she didn't say that. She said, in Australia, we say Nike, okay? So if you want to live here and assimilate, you've got to say Nike as well. And I do. Do you know what? I'm very good. Not to, I'm also very humble, but I say Nike in Australia. Everyone's having a great time. Everyone's loving it. When I say Nike in Australia, I get laughed at, genuinely. By the way, if you want to see me waffle a bit more about this topic, I've actually got an exclusive out on my Patreon, so I'll leave that in the link below if you want to see it. Number 4, the great debate, this word, maroon. Now, I purposefully put this word in the video, I wasn't going to, but so many people were debating about it in the comments in my last video I did on the topic, so I thought, got to. In the UK, we pronounce the word maroon. In Australia, this does not apply to every Australian in every state, but typically, the pronunciation is maroon. Okay, this next word is the big debate.
Okay. Well, yes, I say maroon.
Do you really?
But I'm from Victoria.
Yeah.
In Queensland, they say maroon or maroon.
What, they do both?
Yes.
Ah. If I can be so arrogant to say, I think the correct way of saying this word is maroon. I'm sorry. If I'm being serious for a second, I am an actor, right? And I'm British. That's no secret. And moving to Australia, I have had to rebuild my acting career from scratch. So actually assimilating and learning the Australian pronunciation of these words is integral for the success of my career, because I will be auditioning for quite a few different Aussie accent roles. So I love Australian English because it's given me this extra little challenge. It's sort of gamified speaking English. But here's the truth. Every foreigner visiting or moving to Australia, you will make mistakes. And that's okay, because Aussies, if I'm being honest, they are the most forgiving, welcoming, and loving people. And they will not be laughing at you when you make mistakes. They'll be laughing with you. I just feel so blessed to get to live in Australia, right? Because it just doesn't have the same atmosphere as that in the UK. It just doesn't. So if you pronounce a word wrong in Australia, don't stress. No one's gonna care. And if anything, you give someone a bit of a laugh and make their day. But Australia is probably the best place to learn and grow as a person, so you're in good hands. Number 5, the numbers 30 and 13. So myself included, us Brits can be quite naughty at dropping our T's sometimes, like butter, better, letter. Obviously I'm exaggerating there, but that's not uncommon. Whereas Australians, at least they pronounce their T's, they'll just soften them a bit more and they'll turn them into kind of D sounds like butter and better and little and letter. But differentiating the numbers 30 and 13 when conversing with an Aussie can sometimes be a bit of a challenge with me. If you're being a very good elocution boy as a Brit in the UK and you say 30 and you say 13, it's quite easy to hear the difference between them because of the emphasis on T and teen, 30, 13. But with Australians, it's not uncommon for them to say 30. 13. And I found it really can be as strong as that sometimes, and I can't differentiate those numbers. But obviously it works with other numbers like 40, 14, 50, 15. And a lot of Aussies, they are much better at pronouncing their T's than the Brits are, but sometimes with a stronger accent that's more sort of middle of the mouth, it can be a bit more difficult. Word number 6, urinal. Now, in the UK, us Brits will generally say urinal. Again, just unnecessarily fancy, weird way of saying it. In Australia, you would generally say urinal. And I have to admit, I'm really not sure why we say urinal in the UK. It's another one of those words like foyer, where it's just unnecessarily fancy. Whereas in Australia, urinal, it gets the job done. You lock in, you say the word exactly you would think it reads, and it's simple. It's not trying to be anything, it's not. So I must admit, in Australia, I will say urinal. So somehow the Aussie version, it sounds almost more medical, but maybe a bit less hygienic. But urinal, while urinals is a little bit more arrogant and smug, it does feel a little bit cleaner. Don't know why. I think I would rather wee into urinal than a urinal. What about you? Let me know in the comments. Word number 7, laboratory. In the UK, we say laboratory. In Australia, generally, from what I've seen in my research, it's laboratory. I think this is quite an American way of saying it, which I found quite interesting. However, when I spoke to my mother-in-law, the conversation went sideways. Here we go.
Laboratory.
Really?
Yes.
I thought you were going to say laboratory.
Laboratory.
Also, you have British parents.
Yes.
So that makes sense more why you would potentially get brought up to say laboratory.
Maybe.
This isn't a word I use. I'm not a scientist or pulling out those, screaming plants in Harry Potter.
Grasp your mandrake firmly.
But I was really surprised to hear the Brits say laboratory. I must admit, the reason why I say laboratory is probably because of my childhood upbringing and, being taught to speak with a British accent, but also because laboratory feels like the easiest way to emphasize the first part of the word and speak the word. Whereas the Australian version, laboratory, feels like you sort of start here and go on a little laboratory, and it just feels more effortful, which doesn't seem very typical for Aussies because they have found a beautiful way to speaking English language a bit more efficient. I think when other cultures say that Australians speak in a really lazy way, this just isn't true. It's a total stereotype of Australian dialect. Word number 8, today. This is a little bit of a silly one, okay? It is. Now in the UK we would say today. In Australia they would say more like today. But not only since living in Brisbane, but also when I was trying to say today in my Aussie accent for an audition, and I was trying to say today, and my wife and Aussie actors who were helping me, they would be like, nah, stop, what are you doing? Say it more like you, say it more like you, and then I go today, and then it's pretty much there. Again, not perfect, still working on it. The point I'm making is that the Aussie accent actually shares a huge amount of similarities with the British accent, and when I'm trying to, put on an Australian accent for an acting role or audition, sometimes I have to remind myself to actually speak more British to come across more authentic and realistic as an Australian. So while the pronunciation isn't hugely different with this word, it has not only shown me the similarities to British English, but also has shown me that there is a lot of spice and flavour added into Australian pronunciation, especially with those diphthongs. Anyway, if you thought these words were absolutely wild, you'll want to see the other 10 Australian words that are pronounced completely differently from Brits. It caused absolute chaos in the comments, so go watch that video now. I'll see you over there. Thank you for watching to the end, and see you soon.